Loretta O'Neal of Buxton talks about her grandfather, Christopher Midget, who was the cook at the Cape Point Coast Guard station.
Yeah, in 1935, my mom and I moved back to Buxton.
Okay.
And we lived in this yellow house over here, which was my grandfather, Christopher Midget's house, my dad's father's home. And
so both of your parents were from Buxton?
yes, they were.
Okay.
My grandfather, Christopher, was cook for the Cape Point Coast Guard station for many, many years.
Oh, okay.
And when I was just a little tyke from the age of about 6, I used to ride out early mornings with him to the Coast Guard station. I would sit on the steps and play with shells while he cooked their breakfast and lunch. And I remember so well this gentleman from Avon, a Mr. Gray, would sit by me sometimes, and he would tell me what the shells represented. Like there was a Scotch bonnet and a shell they called the pig, and the starfish, the devil's pocketbook.
Where was the Coast Guard station?
It was right out on the point, Cape Point.
Oh, it was?
Right on the point then.
Okay, out on the beach.
Yeah, right on the beach,
okay.
yeah. And we got out there by horse and cart.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so in their cars, we'd go up a causeway, right out to the beach, get on the bank of the beach, and then cruise right down to the station.
Did your grandfather own the horse?
Oh, yes, he owned his own horses. The horse's name was Jim.
Jim?
I know besides cooking for the Coast Guard, my grandfather cut net steaks a lot,
okay,
and sold them and used them. He fished a lot himself. And Susan, one of the most wonderful, wonderful memories is when I was about 7, 8 years old. My granddaddy and he would take a little tin bucket and fill it with the biscuits and fish or whatever was left over from supper the night before and breakfast that morning. Put it in this little tin bucket. He and I would hitch up the horse to the cart, and we would leave his house and go straight through the woods all the way over to the bank of the beach. He had a camp. He had tunneled a sand dune.
He built a camp over there.
He built like a tunnel camp. Anyhow, he had what they called a dory. You know,
okay,
a boat. You know what that is. He would go out in the ocean in his dory with his nets and set his nets. I would stay up there. I wasn't allowed to go in the camp by myself because he didn't want to cave in maybe or something.
Right.
I was to sit in the shade of the opening of it and shells again. I always collected shells and played with shells. And that is one of the most wonderful memories because he was just a little man. He was only about probably about 5'8 and a half. He wasn't a big man. And then after he would fish, we'd stay just about the day. And after he would fish his nets, if he caught something, he'd have the bucket and get them in the bucket. And here we'd head back for home.